I want to welcome everybody here, and just so overwhelmed by the support and the turnout that the town and the department and area departments have given us for this night, truly a historic night. And I know I'm going to leave people off, but I'll give it a shot, and I apologize if I do leave you off. But I want to start with my two former chiefs, Peter Bright, if you could wave or stand or both, and Chief Jack Ruane, sitting in the front row. I know I had two of the best chiefs to learn from, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything that you did for the department and everything that you did for myself. I also want to thank and welcome the selectmen who are here tonight with us, Lisa Lopez, Chris Connolly, Tommy Theodore, and John Conley. And I also want to commend them and thank them for their selection of Helena Rafferty as our town's next chief of police. And I know our District Attorney Mike Morrissey is here, along with the state police investigators assigned to his office, who we work really closely with, and it's great to see you, as well as Representative Bill Galvin. Where are you, Bill? Oh, there you are. Thank you for being here to help us commemorate this night. We also have a number of chiefs, and I know I'm going to leave someone off, so I'm not even going to try, but thank you. If you could all just stand if you're sitting, or give us a wave so we could acknowledge your service to your communities and partnership we have with them. As well as our federal partners that have joined us here from, I know the ATF is here, and I also just want to thank Brian and Higgins and Kate Dowd for being here, and also standing with our Fire Chief Charlie Duty, and thank him for his close partnership that we've had over the years, and I know that we'll continue to have. And State Police commanders from H Troop, thank you for being here. Major Gallagher, thank you. So just to give you some background, Helena and I actually worked together my entire career, and we started out on the midnight shift together. We worked midnight to 8, and we made sergeant. We studied together, made sergeant the exact same night. Were promoted, and again, when we studied for the lieutenant's exam together, and we made lieutenant the exact same night. We went to graduate school together, and got our master's degrees. So we have a long history together. When I made chief, we sat down because we wanted to try to figure out how we were going to split the workload up and what would be the best strategy for doing that. So after about 10 minutes, Helena came up with the idea that she would handle all the day-to-day and smaller decisions, and anything big or more complex, she would run by me. So I'm happy to tell you that in the last 17 years, we haven't had any big or complex decisions. And she pretty much handled everything. I'm also thrilled, though, really, to be here tonight and be part of history. And part of history for a number of reasons is we swear in a former member of our department's daughter. That's a first. And anyone who knew longtime Canton Detective Vinnie Rafferty knows that he's looking down from heaven beaming, albeit that he might have been telling people for the last 10 years that his daughter was the chief, but now he won't be lying. And also, Chief Rafferty, I also know that your mother, Etty, could not be more proud of you. And I know that she has prepared you well for this challenge, so. To Declan and Aiden and Colin and Breslin, your mother's going to be very busy. Trust me, night meetings, out all the time. Breslin, you can't call her as much. I got to Tal, I know how many times you call her, and that's going to kind of come a little to the end. But know that how busy she is, that you're all at the center of her universe, and you'll continue to be. And she loves you, I know that. So at this time, I'm going to ask the Gala column and the honor guard to present the colors. If we could all stand, please.
Detail.
Our next speaker, who doesn't really need any introduction, but John Connolly, who's the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, and just been so supportive of the police department. He's been a selectman, I think, longer than I've been a police officer, and so it's over 30 years. But as all our selectmen have been, but especially John, over trying times and years, he's always been there for us, and I appreciate it. Although when you get my new phone number, there will be a caller ID, so I'll probably be forwarding it to Chief Rafferty for a while. Give me a break. So come on up.
You mean my number will be blocked like a lot of them are, so. But thank you, Chief Berkowitz, and I didn't know Kenny when he got appointed. I appointed him, and he rose up through the ranks, and he and I have become very close friends. Good afternoon and welcome. It is truly an honor and privilege to be here today on behalf of the Canton Select Board. Vice Chairman Lisa Lopez, Clerk Tommy Theodore, Chris Connolly, and unfortunately Mike Loughran had a previous commitment. And welcome the citizens of Canton. We congratulate Canton's 14th Chief of Police, Helena Rafferty. Welcome to our honored guests, our clergy. Thank you. From the houses, all the houses of worship here in Canton. Chief Rafferty was appointed to the Canton Police Department in January of 1989, following in her dad's footsteps. I was elected to the Board of Selectmen in March of 1989. I've had the privilege of knowing Helena Rafferty for over 33 years. I've seen her rise through the ranks to the deputy chief, a position she's had for the last 10 years. I'd just like to, at this time, make a special notification, special thank you, and welcome to Chief Ruane and his wife Nancy, Chief Bright and his wife Bobby, Holly, Chief Berkowitz's wife, and of course, a very special welcome to Kenny's mother, she's always been Mrs. Berkowitz, you always be Mrs. Berkowitz. Mrs. Berkowitz, thank you, it's great to see you. Thank you, you're a wonderful person, and your son loves you dearly. That reminds me of a little story when Helena first became deputy chief. I called Chief Berkowitz and asked him to give me a ride to get my car, which was over in Norwood in repairs, as there were a couple of items I needed to discuss with him about the police department. A half hour later, Helena pulls up in my driveway, and she's driving an old Ford Explorer. Because we were waiting for money to come in to get her a new car. It was hot August day, about 90 degrees and awful humid. I'm no fan of hot weather, no pun intended. The car had no AC. We drove for about 2 miles. This is a true story. Drove for about 2 miles, and I said, okay, I've had it. I know when I've been set up. You convinced me you can get your new car with air conditioning as soon as possible. She looked at me with her little smile, and I said, I know when I've been had. Helena was an amazing person. Honest, hardworking, smart, funny, and compassionate. Compassionate is the key word. It reminds me of a quote from The Wizard of Oz, one of my favorite movies of all time. And it's by the wizard, L. Frank Baum. A heart is not judged by how much you love, but how much you are loved by others. When Chief Berkowitz confided in me that he was going to retire, I knew we had the right person to fill his big shoes. None of this nationwide search and dragging it out for weeks or months. I saw the opening and I took it. The select board agreed and we voted that night to make Helena Rafferty the town of Canton's 14th chief of police. She deserves it. She's earned it because of who she is, what she is, which is a good person. That's what we need today. I would like to close and I asked Helena, please don't cry, because if you start crying, I'm going to bawl like a baby. And I'd like to close with a saying by Sidney Sheldon. And I quote, my heroes are those who risk their lives every day to protect our world and to make it a better place. Police, firefighters, and members of the armed services. Thank you one and all. May God bless you, and may God watch over Chief Helena Rafferty. Thank you one and all. Thank you.
I can't believe she gave up the air conditioning trick. Water under the bridge now. I'm next going to call up Tracy Kenny, the town clerk, to administer the oath of office to Chief Rafferty, along with her, come on up, and along with her children, who I introduced before, Breslin, who sang the national anthem beautifully, Colin, Aiden, and her oldest one, Declan.
Detail, attention!
Would you please raise your right hand and respond to the following questions? Do you, Helena Rafferty, solemnly swear to faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all duties incumbent upon you as the appointed Chief of Police for the town of Canton, Massachusetts?
I do.
Do you promise to bear true faith and allegiance to and uphold and defend the constitutions of the United States of America and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts?
I do.
Do you solemnly swear that you will never betray your badge, your integrity, your character, or the public trust?
I do.
And finally, do you, Helena Rafferty, hereby accept the position of Chief of Police for the town of Canton?
I do.
Congratulations, Chief Rafferty.
Parade, rest!
So I had no idea my daughter was going to sing the national anthem. So that got me a little emotional. Good evening, everyone. I am speechless at the number of people that are present tonight, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. As I stand looking out, I see so many people from my book of life. Some of you are a line in that book, others a paragraph or a chapter, and many of you are exclamation points. Yet each of you have come together in those pages, and you are thus a very huge reason why I'm standing before you tonight. I'd like to thank the Select Board for allowing me to choose this date and venue to be sworn in as the 14th Chief of Police. I love this town so much, and it was important to me for a number of reasons to be sworn in here. When my mother immigrated, she passed away last August, so it's even more emotional. When she immigrated to America, she got her first job at Plymouth Rubber, a factory which was located on this parcel of land. And the brick building to the rear of me, back there, that is where my father and godfather and so many other men and women I love served as police officers, and where I spent my first 15 years as a police officer when Jack Rowain appointed me and Peter Bright mentored me. And I thank you guys for being here so much. It means the world to have the three chiefs I've worked under be here. This space allows me to feel the presence of my parents and so many others that have gone. And as I make my remarks, and yes, Mom, I am standing tall, and can everybody in the back hear me? She would want me to make sure everybody could hear me. I'm speaking loudly and I'm speaking clearly. Beyond the personal reasons for the choice of this site, it holds so much symbolism as a nation. To those of you not from Canton, this is the Paul Revere Heritage Site. After the heroic actions that Paul Revere and many others took in helping to secure the independence of our nation, he came to Canton and opened a copper rolling mill. The brick building to your right and the yellow barn behind me are renovated structures that he worked out of. It's humbling to me to have taken my oath on land where he and my mother once walked. This date, June 14th, brings with it its own significance. It's Flag Day in our nation. It's also the birthday of the United States Army, which translates to it being the day the United States military was born. To all the selfless veterans in the crowd, 9 of whom are Canton police officers, thank you so much for your service and sacrifice to this nation and our flag, a symbol to each of us of the best this nation has to offer. With that said, if I may be bold and ask you to allow the flag on this evening and in this moment to symbolize that sentiment on a local level. Let the 50 stars on the blue background represent the nearly 50 men and women of the Canton Police Department. Let the red and white stripes symbolize the blood that they are willing to shed to ensure peace and liberty for you and your families. News reports in recent years have focused some unfavorable lights on individuals who were previously part of this profession, and very rightly so. Please understand, though, that not one person here tonight abhors actions that cast a dark shadow on law enforcement more than the good officers who show up every day for the right reasons. The town of Canton has good officers. Officers who will run into those school buildings, no hesitation whatsoever. Officers who have, in recent weeks, placed themselves in peril, taking 5 guns and illegal drugs off our streets. I'm grateful and privileged to serve alongside each of them, and I'm indebted to my best friend, Chief Ken Berkowitz, for the example of what true and heartfelt leadership is. When putting together my thoughts for this evening, I did a couple of things. First, I decided to do what my children would do. I rushed to the computer. There I researched the symbolism of the number 14. And Google spit back this, and I quote, "The number 14 represents the immense pressure that a person will always have." Armed with that intelligence, I did what any good trailblazer would do. I ran right out and got my hair dyed to get way ahead of that information. In all seriousness, though, it also said that the number 14 brings with it change, renewal, and progress. And in this world we are navigating right now, that tidbit of data brought me some much-needed hope and inspiration. I next Googled and thought important things that happened on this day in history. What I uncovered was a little bit more comforting. On this day in 1993, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was nominated to the Supreme Court of the United States. Not bad company to be in nearly 30 years later. And finally, I reflected on my book of life and contemplated how I got to this place at this time. I recalled myself as a young girl of 10. I loved and still do love Elvis Presley. I spent every Monday night watching Little House on the Prairie. I ate too much mint chocolate chip ice cream, read a ton, and my favorite color was green. I was living my best 10-year-old life, and things were going along pretty smoothly until they weren't. Much like most of us remember where we were when Kennedy was shot or the Challenger exploded or when the terror of 9/11 occurred, I vividly recall some defining moments during the year 1977. That January, I was introduced to Kunta Kinte during the television production of Alex Haley's Roots. I watched with utter shock and disgust as Kunta was ripped away from his native homeland and family, against his will, to become somebody's property. I could not comprehend that this happened in the United States of America, and even more incredulous was that it was allowed to go on for decades. My innocence was shattered, and the revelation of that dark period in our history ignited a fire in me. I wanted to help make positive differences for all people in whatever small way I could. I next devoured A Night to Remember, which chronicled the real-life tragedy of the Titanic. I was horrified that third-class passengers, mostly poor immigrant passengers, were locked in the bowels of that ship, never given an opportunity to save themselves or their children. This struck home for me because my father came to this country knowing no one, with a mere $24 in his pocket. If he had lived during that period and immigrated, he would have been a third-class passenger, just like the thousands of others who the upper classes deem expendable with nothing important to contribute in life. That story taught me the danger of hubris, but more importantly, it taught me the peril of ignorance. The belief that one group of people is more worthy than another for any reason whatsoever can never be tolerated. Later that year, my teacher assigned us the diary of Anne Frank. Chillingly, Anne Frank started her diary on this very day in 1942. All I can see in my mind's eye is a teenager who exactly 80 years ago tonight was trying to comprehend why being Jewish was so wrong, while people of her faith were considered not worthy to live. This book taught me the importance of being a voice for those who don't have one or cannot find theirs. It taught me to speak out against hatred and stand up for those who cannot stand up for themselves. Then, on August 16, 1977, Elvis Aaron Presley died. Needless to say, age 10 was a heavy year for me. Holocaust survivor Olga Horgot once said, "People tell me to live for the future, don't live in the past." But I don't live in the past lives in me. The past lives in all of us in its own way. It is our book of life, our unique story. We owe it to our children and our children's children to make sure that the past illuminates the path to a brighter future. My past helped to form me into the person you see before you right now. Someone who actively models that we should never judge a book by its cover and utilizes the gift of time, active listening, and communication to let people feel they matter and help them to know their worth. Maya Angelou once said, "People don't remember what you say or do, they remember how you made them feel." We should never treat people differently based on the religion they practice, the money in the bank account, the color of their skin, the uniform they wear, the age they are, the profession they choose, who they love, how they identify, the physical impairment they have, or their struggles with mental illness or an addiction. Each of us have our own story to tell. If we can acknowledge that the most valuable possession we own is an open heart, it stands to reason that the most powerful weapon we can be is an instrument of peace. The iconic thing is, for as different as we all are, we are strikingly similar. Each of us need only 3 things in life in order to truly thrive and survive. We need food, we need water, and we need to know we matter. I firmly believe that by really drilling down on letting people know they matter, we would cut down on mental health issues, juvenile crime, addiction, school violence, and countless other matters plaguing our country during these times. I have always loved the saying, "Your actions speak so loudly, I can't hear what you're saying." And thus, these thoughts need to become actionable. So the Canton Police Marked Units will soon be displaying a hashtag 1440 on the rear of each vehicle. It represents the one thing that every person on earth indisputably has in common. We each only have 1,440 minutes to make a difference in life each day. Hashtag 1440 will serve as a daily reminder to each of us in uniform to always strive to leave a call for service by letting the victims and clients we interact with know they matter. However, that responsibility should not be ours alone. Everyone in this crowd can participate. When you're behind one of our vehicles in traffic, I challenge each of you to reflect on what hashtag 1440 means and let another person out of a side street or check on that neighbor you haven't seen for a while. Small gestures matter, and as Martin Luther King once said, you don't have to see the whole staircase to take the first step. The future plan is to have hashtag 1440 placed on magnets for sale in our town, with the proceeds going towards efforts that will move us closer to a world where there are no more mass shootings because of your race, religion, gender, or sexual orientation, where there are no more Emmett Tills or Matthew Shepards, a world where children aren't killing children and where children can be children. Who knows, maybe this effort will take off, becoming a hashtag 1440 community, maybe an imitated endeavor that moves the nation toward true and lasting indivisibility with liberty and justice for all. As I alluded to earlier, I love Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll. What many of you don't know is that in his career, he was nominated for 14 Grammys. 14 is the number again. He only won 3, and they were all for gospel music, not one for popular or rock and roll. The lesson there is that the real impact Elvis's gift is when he spoke to the human condition with empathy and understanding. And I kid you not, Elvis Presley graduated high school in Memphis, Tennessee on this night in 1953. As he accepted that diploma 70 years ago, I bet he never thought that the daughter of Irish immigrants in Boston would be using one of his songs to close out her inaugural chief remarks. The song was recorded in 1968 at the height of civil unrest, just after Dr. King and Robert Kennedy were assassinated and the Vietnam War was really starting to heat up. At the end of my remarks, take the time to listen to the words. In so many ways, it is as if time has stood still. And honestly, that's just not acceptable. And speaking of time, I must bring these remarks to an end as members of Canton's finest have given me a strict time limit. I cannot do so first without acknowledging that the significance of this day is certainly not lost upon me, just as I'm sure it was not lost upon Elizabeth Galvin on the day she became the first female officer in the Canton Police Department. However, while it is definitely a notable occasion, it is equally important to me that I make history for how I show up, by the actions I take and the decisions I make, the words I speak and the lives I touch. In the annals of our town's history, I want to be remembered as the right person for this role at this particular time and in this particular place. I want to make youngsters coming up behind me look to me because of the positive changes I helped to create and the ripple effects they inspired in future generations. My father used to always say that it is not the uniform that makes the man, but rather the man that makes the uniform. Dad, tonight it is not the uniform that makes the woman, but rather the woman that makes the uniform. If the legacy that I am fortunate enough to put forth as your 14th Chief of Police is what I outlined in these remarks, then my book of life will read that I proudly accomplished all of it while being a woman. Thank you for your gift of time. You certainly have let me know I matter, and I will hold tight to that feeling forever.
Thank you. Thank you to Elvis Presley. I was getting nervous. I didn't see a name on there, and I'm like, I wonder if Pauline or Breslin or they're expecting me to sing. So I'm glad that that worked out. Funny story, since the chief brought it up. I was in Alabama last week when she got pinned at the town hall, and then I came back. I came back on a Thursday. I was going Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and I came back and I noticed that her hair was jet black. And I said, this job really is going to agree with her, because when I made chief, first my hair turned gray and then it all fell out. And it seems like it's had the opposite effect on her. So I know she's going to have a long and successful career. But all kidding aside, obviously, I love the department, and I just feel so honored and really just at peace knowing that I'm turning the department over, which was our department to start with. Everybody that you see right there, it's your department, all the community members and residents, but I know that they're in such good hands, and thank you for being there, and thank you for the selectmen for acknowledging what a great job Helena's done over the years. I knew I was going to miss a couple things, so I wrote it down, but I want to also recognize the new superintendent of schools, Derek Folan, who's here, and former selectman Bob Burr, I saw was also here. And I want to take a minute just to recognize Johnny Ruane. Johnny was on the midnight shift with Helena and I when we first got on, and he's really the epitome of courage for me when I look at you, Johnny, and just a battler, and always been, and I know you're going to continue to. And we miss you, and we love you, buddy. We have a couple proclamations. Three were brought up from Rhode Island. I don't know what the Chiefs' connection to Rhode Island is, but maybe we'll start an investigation. But the Senate, the House, and the Governor of Rhode Island all sent a really nice proclamation. I want to thank you for that. And I also want to call Representative Galvin up, who also has a proclamation from the Massachusetts that we don't have to launch an investigation on.
Good afternoon, all. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you. I bring greetings from the House of Representatives, but first I'd like to tell Helena that I agree with the sentiments that have been said before about her parents and how happy they are and proud of her. Of course, I was a teenager when her father was on the police force. So we had a little bit different relationship than I do with the chief. And I gotta tell you, I might not be here if it wasn't for her dad, okay? He was a very fair and tough guy, but he was a real gentleman too. So it's an honor for me to be here. So Helena, you wanna come up here so I can hand this to you?